Hello, it's JJ Humphrey, and we're back on Elephant in the Room. Today, we're going to be talking about a really important subject. We're waiting on a friend of ours, Derwin. He was on before, but something happened to him, so we're having a little technology problems there. Hopefully, he'll be right back on. Looks like him trying to get on right there. So he's back with us now. So great to have you, Derwin. And we're going to jump into on the conversation. Bob, you saw what I had wrote this morning, what we put out, what we're going to be talking about today, about criminal justice and about all the problems in criminal justice. What's your thoughts?
Well, JJ, my thoughts are I think this is the most important subject matter we've ever done. I don't think there's anything out there that's more important than what we're doing here. But what we're doing here, what we don't have at the Capitol, we don't have people that want to really fix the problem. They want to appoint their buddies. Now, I'm not criticizing. I'm not talking. Just talking about the whole in general, from the governor on down. They want to put their buddies in there in different positions that they don't know nothing about, but that's their friend. They're trying to do this instead of going in and being like a business and putting the best people in the best places. But they don't. They don't have to be your friend if they know what they're doing and they understand the system and they want to make a difference. But when we just want to go in and put friends in, like the governor, as long as they're giving money to him, he's going to put somebody in over here. And I love the governor, but he's wrong when he does on what he's doing here. We're not getting people in the right places to get things done. Our justice system is out of whack. It is. JJ, Darwin, think about it a second. Now, I know justice. I don't know all of your stuff about DHS, so I'm just going to talk about justice for a little bit, and you can get rid of me. But our justice system, have we increased or decreased the number of prisons we have in the state of Oklahoma?
In the last 5 or 6 years, we've increased. They released a bunch of people. They mass released a bunch of people, dropped us down to about 20 something thousand. Oh, around the time of 780 and the time we legalized marijuana, we are back up to roughly, my understanding, 25,000, 24 something, right at 25,000, almost an increase of 5,000 during that same time period.
But we've increased the prison system, right? We got more prisons now.
Yeah, about 5,000 over that 6-7 year period of time.
And you know what? And the women, the females, I cannot believe you'll never convince me that our women in Oklahoma are meaner than the women in California, the women in Texas, the women in everywhere else in the United States. That our females are meaner. Now, do y'all think our females are meaner than anybody else in the United States?
You look at our whole system, not just female, male. We've got one of the highest rates of incarceration of anywhere you want to go, and that continues. I mean, we've done all of this so-called stuff, passed some laws, done some things to reduce it, but we've not been successful because they've not changed the system. They go out and do some kind of move, but they let people who don't understand the system write these questions, write the laws, change the laws, and they have no effect on the system. And the system is broke. We got one of the worst systems, not just in the United States, in the world. Would you not agree with that, Darwin?
100%. I actually gave it a little nickname that's kind of caught on. They were at first everybody was campaigning against the state of Oklahoma as being one of the largest states of mass incarceration, which was true, and they was always using the terminology the criminal justice industry. Well, they just basically had flipped the script and skewed the numbers. It's the criminal justice reform diversion initiative collusion, and that's they did. JJ is play with the numbers, and they, it reminds me of every Easter the same movie by Charleston Heston comes out of the Ten Commandments. And you see Moses go before the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh brings his magicians out, and his magicians perform their magic. and they throw it out. And Moses, as we all know the story, always swallows up the falsehood. Well, they bring out their magicians with these fancy terminologies, and like their it reminds me, all got gray hair here, so it won't go over any of us two head, but some of the audience. There used to be a cartoon called Bullwinkle the Moose, and he would always, at the beginning of the show, he had this great idea. He had Rocky the squirrel with him, and he would stick his hand off in his hat doing a magic trick and say, "Watch me, Rocky. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat." And he would pull out a line. So what we got here with this system, Bobby and Justin, we have people running around doing big speeches, raking in, manipulating donors to put in big, large amounts of money. And as you said at the beginning, the numbers are screwed, because you got to look at some of their fancy little terms. They're not really fancy, but some of their little hook terms are fact-based driven evidence, best practices. And then they shame the people in Oklahoma, like Bobby said, and say, we're the worst in the world of locking up more women than anyone else. Well, we got a system now that don't even have to follow your constitutional rights anymore. They want to make sure that they manipulate that part of it, and they run. It doesn't just start with DOC; it starts at local levels. And we'll use Oklahoma City and Tulsa for the greatest example. So they're running around like bees inside the jail. Yeah, it does, because they start screwing the numbers, so you can't really see the effects of the criminal justice industry here. So what we'll do, we'll get you to cop out, as is the slang is. We'll get you to plead guilty, but this will go away if you plead guilty and hurry up and sign up to this program. And this program is supposed to alleviate the conditions of confinement.
Well, Darwin, you're
but it does not.
Industry.
It is superficial. It's a whole bunch of checks. Go.
Yeah.
Say that again, because you cut out.
Talking about an industry, and that's what it is. It's an industry, and people don't get that people are being locked up, and that people are being charged, and that the whole system is based on money and based on an industry. And again,
based on friends.
Well, the governor appoints people, and again, the governor was going to be. Hey, there ain't nobody worked harder to get the governor in there. I campaigned for him. I voted for him. But let's just call it out. The people that he's put over the prison system have no clue. If you're in business and you're going to do it, and that's what he was claiming to do, I'm going to come in and do this like a business. What businessman puts somebody in charge of his business that knows absolutely nothing about that business? That has
when he screwed up the business he was in at the time, he appointed him to that position. He didn't make it.
Who goes out and gets somebody to screw up and then brings him into a business that he knows absolutely nothing about, that's already messed up, and then look at his other appointments. I mean, what does he do appointing anybody that knows anything about this criminal justice? And then the bigger problem on our community criminal justice, the DAs have hijacked our entire system.
Our judges don't have the control of it. The DAs have the control of it.
Judges lost control of it. They've given it over to, and I think they didn't do that intentionally. I think they just let them have a little more, and a little more, and a little more.
DAs have somebody up the Capitol
all the time, and there's very few legislators have the backbone to stand up and call out the DAs, or to call out these diversionary programs, or to call out people like Chris Steele, who's hijacked the system, and those people. Nobody wants to put a name. Nobody wants to talk about how that we've allowed our entire system. And again, I'll give you a good example. And this we can go back here, because this is where the community's attention was focused. We saw what the community said. 780, state question 780. Guess what? We voted to reduce a bunch of these things to misdemeanor, a bunch of felony crimes to misdemeanor. Well, then what did they do to change the system? You can't just go in there and change something without changing the whole system to accommodate that. So guess what? We did absolutely nothing. Who got most of those misdemeanor cases? The DAs. Did any money go down there to help these people get mental health or to pay for jail stays or any of that kind of stuff? Absolutely not. We've had to fight to get that, and then it all got given to mental health. It didn't go back to the communities to actually address the issues that are in the communities and to address what's going on. And then we hear all these things like Derwin is saying, you know, they sound neat. What's that?
Bunch of fancy words.
Well, they do, and they sound neat. Like he said, evidence-based practice. Here's what's funny, though. If you actually went out and pulled evidence-based practice, what evidence-based practice really is, guess what? They ain't following. They ain't doing nothing along those lines. They love to speak pretty words, but they don't do it. And again, I'm not opposed to diversionary programs. Me and Derwin have been friends for quite some time. I know he's not opposed to the ideals behind it. What he's opposed to is how they've been hijacked and how they've been used to talk people into taking these, and they're money-making programs for a bunch of people.
Well, JJ, it's like you said, the governor come out and said what was it? The rate is
recidivism.
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 We got that under control. We got that. That's not true. What he said is just flat not true. And I don't believe that someone must have told him this, because why is our prisons overflowing?
Well, Bob, and not only that, Darwin, we lost Darwin. Hey, Darwin, if you're listening, boy, man, you were really hard coming in and out. So if you get back on here, we'd love to have you. But here's the deal, Bob. What I was talking about, me and Derwin talked about this the other day. You have McGirt. So most of the people know,
right?
I mean, that's been a big issue in the state of Oklahoma.
Right.
So and it's not just your eastern half. It's kind of eastern half with the comes underneath and goes over to some of the western part of Oklahoma. It's a huge part of Oklahoma falls under McGirt. And McGirt is that all of those cases go over to the federal or tribal court system. So we pulled about 30-something%, I think. Nobody really has the numbers, which is a sad commentary.
It's a large number.
It's a large number, but it's a sad commentary when our own state can't tell you how they're going to devise the system. There's the first issue. How are they ever going to get a system when they don't know what the hell is going on? Can't tell you. So first of all, 30% of these felony cases come off our docket. Now we got to take in that I was talking about, 780. So if we take in 780, guess what? What's sad, we can't tell you how many come off there. Now we got people who'll say, oh, we got the numbers in Oklahoma City, we got the numbers in Tulsa. I think a lot of those numbers are skewed, but at the same time, Tulsa and Oklahoma City ain't the whole state of Oklahoma. You don't have numbers out in Atoka and Hugo and the places I come from. So again, we don't have the number of the felony cases that 780 took off. We got about 30% on McGirt. And then guess what? We legalized marijuana, or practically legalized it. But that pulled off all these cases off of the felony docket. So if you just went and tried to do a pretty conservative, Bob, I would say somewhere between 40 and 45% would be extremely conservative on those numbers. You're talking almost half of your felony docket was removed in this 6-year period of time, 7-year period of time. And so if you take 40 to 45% in this 7-year period of time that has totally been removed.
Why would the governor come out and say that?
I don't know, but when you say all those has been removed and our prison population's going up, guess what? Anybody should be able to say that those numbers don't jihad. Darwin, what we're talking about is that we've had McGirt, we've had 780, we've had legalization of marijuana. That's pulled off somewhere between 40, 45% of our entire felony docket. And yet we turn around and we're saying that prison population is increasing pretty dramatically. Then how in the world can our state government, our governors say recidivism is down. So again, it's not down. It appears to be going up. And that's a big problem because we come out, we say all these pretty things, we do all these pretty things, but in reality, it's false.
JJ, we've increased the 85%. We have increased that in the last 10 years, 12 years. We've increased it. We every dadgum session, we put something else on there to make it 85%.
So our listeners know what we're talking about. When Bob's talking about increasing 85%, there are certain crimes that the inmates have to do 85% of their entire sentence. Now, if they get 85%, that means we got to keep them longer and longer and longer. And what we keep doing is adding crimes. So used to, the only ones that did 85% was sex offenders. And then we added assault and battery, and then we added trafficking or something like that. And
well,
so
we just keep adding to it instead of increase it. But also, we have decreased the number of programs in our prison system to try to rehabilitate people. We're not doing that because they don't have the money, because they're too busy flying around the countryside. We don't have the money for these programs for these inmates. We don't, in drugs. You think we'd have a drug rehabilitation in every prison, as bad as the drugs are in the prison? We don't have that. Only certain prisons have that. To try
Bob, number one thing to change criminal behavior and substance abuse behavior, I believe, is God. But after God, they say employment. And we do nothing. We have very little in the prison. Now, there are a few programs, but we have very little to get inmates in. Work is what you want them to do. Teach them to work. Teach them a skill. When they get out, we know that if they get out with a skill that lets them earn a wage, guess what? They're 66% less likely to return back to prison. We know that, yet we don't offer anything at all. Uh-oh. Hey, Derwin,
you're on twice.
You're on twice.
Hey, Derwin,
Yeah, I'm finna turn this one off.
He has you taking you off there, so you're not able to look at his budget or aren't over his budget. You're not in there to question him as to what's going on in the prison system. So that's the way they did this. But that's what I'm saying is they're not putting people in the positions that they're qualified to be in.
Bob, they don't want to hear. I can tell you, they do not want to hear at the Capitol, going from the governor's office all the way down. If somebody who actually knows their business comes and talks to them, they don't want to hear anything that's negative. All they want to hear when they get their little program, they want everybody around them to kiss their butt and say, Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's and again, their programs are designed by either one, and I don't know whether that. And Darwin, jump in where you're back here, but you know, are these people really good, intentional people who have a lot of
Okay.
and they just
Talk.
want to spread wealth and have their opinion, or are they more you know, is there something more diabolical behind them? Are they making money off of their positions and those kind of things? What do you think?
Okay. So I'll jump in here and say it like this. First and foremost, I really want to say earlier that I really haven't had, okay, use when we said the governor earlier. I mean, the governor, we got a very good rapport. So I haven't really, especially, and his wife, I have a good rapport with both of them.
Yeah, they're
But
good.
yeah, I really have a good rapport with them. I just wanted to make that clear. But some of the other usual suspects, as you was talking right there, JJ, I'm gonna hit it. When you say, are they diabolical? Are they doing this maliciously, or are they just kind people?
Well, let me
Well, you know, you and I talked. Yeah, you and I talked about this situation a time ago. These
okay,
intentions of these
Darwin, hang on a second. You know what? You're saying you
right,
have a good rapport with the governor and his wife. That's good.
right,
You know that's fine. Uh, I,
right,
I mean, I like the governor. But I think the governor
right.
made some bad decisions as a governor. And the biggest decision that I can see fully myself is what's happened with our prison system. We've got
Right.
a guy over there who knows nothing about a prison system. Now,
Okay,
Darwin,
Bobby, go ahead, Bobby. But let me finish. I was finna get to a point with someone when we talk. I think we're both on the same page. Let me finish.
okay, all right, go ahead.
When you're talking about back to the musicians, when you say you got people with lived experience. So I'm a person with lived experience. I've been a leader for a long time, whether I was on the right side or the good side. I've always been a leader. So I had to learn through experience. I'm coming up on a birthday. Sometimes you can be in leadership, and it's funny for me to say this for a person who has been through the trials and tribulations that I have been through. I had to learn the hard way. I'll use this platform that we're on now. I'm so glad that Donald Trump won, because I'm not just saying this. I have proved this with people that are in my close vicinity, that are closely around me, that almost everything I've been saying for like the last 3.5 years, that's what he's up to with JFK, how we eat. Now we're gonna go back to prisons. How he has the Attorney General, who I can't wait to meet, from that he put in from Florida. She's right on the same page. This stuff is going to be investigated. So Derwin Romani, at times, I put people in around me in the most dangerous situations in incarceration, in close proximity, like my godfather likes to say. You got a 20-year degree in psychology and therapy that you can't teach out here. When you talk about cognitive behavior programs, drug programs, I had to file those lawsuits in there. JJ and I were talking yesterday about coming on here, and he made a statement, which I'm going to keep using. He said they either kill it or steal it. So it's saying what JJ said and what you're saying at the same time. There have been had programs when people come in like me, they only want you to use you and say, well, we have somebody with lived experience, and then they take your ideas and they stink them up. I'll just say it like that. They grab them, gravitate with them. They want to give you $100 gift certificate to run you around like a circus animal, get up and speak before these donors. And you both, what you and JJ said is right on point. You take a person like me that has lived experience, have wrote programs. When I sit in the back of a certain organization, which I'm not going to say on here because there's other things coming down the pipe. And something I learned, Bobby, is you don't tell them everything. And even on a podcast like this, Derwin had to learn that I have other legal clerks that I was incarcerated with. They talk too much. And what they'll do, they go out and bash the warden. They go out and bash the director. And all they do is do patchwork to cover up their criminal, I'm calling it what it is, their criminal collusions. So do you got good people there? Yes, you do. people like me that have been in leadership, yes, you can be duped. There's been time where I probably could have almost lost, my physical life with people that I thought had my back, put people in positions of leadership I thought could run it, but I had to learn through experience.
Hey, I want to say something here because I know you and JJ
Yep.
going to be all over and I won't get nothing in.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the prisons where we're talking, but this is it's not the prisons, it's the judges. It's everything's going on in the criminal justice system is broken, completely broken. And the problem that we have, I tell you what, I met a guy the other day in Walmart. He just got out of, he come up to me. I didn't even know who he was. Told me he just got out of prison. He served 15 years. I asked him, do you think it's better now than what it was 2 years ago? He said, oh, it's not. It's terrible. Drugs is everywhere in the prison system. They got the what do you call those guys?
Shot collars.
Shot callers.
The shot callers are running the prisons, and if you're not you're not in their group, then they're going to beat you to death. They're going to rape you. If the prison system, he said, is awful compared to what it was a few years ago.
And just so our listeners know, a shot caller is a inmate who is a leader in the prison, who is generally a gang leader and controls other inmates. So that's what a shot caller.
Well, they have gone in. The director and his people have gone into the prison system, and they go and meet with the shot callers, the guys, the head of the gangs, and made some kind of a deal with them. So they're running it. If you get caught on their pod and you're not in their gang, Darwin, they're beating the crap out of you.
I used to be that guy. So I understand that fully. That's what I was saying. I used to be that guy. I mean, I was so bad that they moved me every yard. But to bring you up to speed, now that you're talking about somebody with lived experience, I was that guy before I got my life together. They moved me from the worst prisons to the worst prisons. So somebody with lived experience know what's work. But when I changed my life and start working these programs, they don't want these programs to truly work. So that's why I'm on the same page that you, and they do not want these programs to work. I'm gonna give you a baby example of when I come out, I became a peer recovery support specialist. There were only 2,000 peer recovery support specialists in the state of Oklahoma. These are like minions and puppets how we use. There are over 32,000 of us now. There's not even no place to put you. But part of the pimp game, I'm calling it what it is, part of the pimp game and hustle, the pandering to the sympathy of the people, more programs, but the programs are incompetent and they're impotent. So when I was worked at this particular place called the Lottie House, I'll call one of them out. The same woman who's over it now used to be the county commissioner. Now she's the head person. She's the same person that rolled out all these fluffy ideas like J.J. Humphrey talked about earlier. Let's have a beautiful, nice mental health facility tied to the jail, and everything that has collapsed in the last few hours, it's part of her. And she took out and ran and didn't even tell her fellow colleagues that she was leaving the 3 commissioners. So it starts at the root of the problem.
Darwin, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You've been in there. Is it better to have the shot callers running the prison, or is it better for the correctional officers in the state running the prison? Which one's the safest position for a inmate?
Well, that depends on, you asking a very specific question, so I'm not dancing around it, but it depends on who the shot caller is. It was a time when I was a bad shot caller, and it was a time when I was a good shot caller. That's what part of my fame is. I have men.
Good. We're taking it overall. I'm asking you.
Overall, it's a bad thing.
That's all I want to know. I went to a meeting
here's the thing.
Just a second, JJ. I'm gonna just say this. I'll let you talk. I went to a meeting in Chicago of all the prisons, people like me. They went. Most of them had unions, so they had a lot more power. But one of the things that came up in that meeting was letting the inmates run the prison, and 100% of this in a vote said that if you let a prisoners run the prison, you have failed. You need to get out. You have done the worst thing you can do. Now, would that be true or not true?
That's true in book sense, but it hadn't happened in so long in prisons across all 50 states. Inmates have always run the prisons to a certain extent. They just can't walk out through the security part. but they have always run the prison because it has never been enough security and staff to stop.
But now it's worse.
Yeah, it has never been. That's not going to happen.
Now
We're down 45%. You know, in
now,
our
here's the deal.
sales. Go ahead, Jerry.
Derwin's right. Derwin's right. I worked on a facility.
JJ, don't say
No,
that right there in front of him.
Bob, listen up. Listen up.
Yeah,
I worked on a
Wow, you catch on.
Hey, there might be two of us working for 400 inmates back, then, and we had full staff back then, but there were days where two of us aren't going to control 400 people. And that's true. But the difference is we would come back, we would have full staff. Those guys knew that if they got out of control, we're going to bring in National Guard. It was a different.
right.
What's happening right now is they're letting the shot callers fully run. What Darwin was saying is before there was kind of an agreement. Okay, this is how we're going to run it. This is what we're going to run it. They could have reared up at any time and taken, but they knew that's going to be bad consequences. So it worked good. It was a balance of that whole system. Right now, here's what
It's out of control.
When inmates take over the prison, you're out of control. That's a right. When they take over the system,
Correct.
The inmates are in total control of the entire system. I'd say our entire system is in the process of a riot. We've lost control of the whole system. And yes, that's when it turns bad. That's when we see 180 deaths. You can go to the numbers, 180 deaths in a year, rapes every day.
Medical's up.
Every day, everything. So yes, Bob, you're right. But what he's saying is correct. There has to be some balance. We've lost.
Yeah, I give you a correct little bit of example. Wagon Hut. During my time there, when I started changing my life, I had all these class X's. I had stopped doing the bad stuff. I decided to walk the straight line to get the hell up out of there, and I was doing all positivity. All my lawsuits, everything was the things we're on here talking about. No conduct behavior programs. They was raking in money for thinking for a change. They wasn't even letting us out to do thinking for a change. Here's a form of a shot caller having a positivity. The position I had as a religious leader is usually the shot callers. Before I was a Christian, you know me as a Catholic now, but before that, I was a Muslim minister. Whoever is the Muslim minister in the prison is like the shot caller for all the blacks, because all the blacks have been stabbing each other, killed each other in the free world. They don't get along. So that's a political position. Whoever is that position. So I start having these meetings. When we get out to have meetings, at the end of the meeting, we got 2 hours to hold a religious meeting. But the last 45 minutes, I would control and have meetings after that. It actually became a program. I'm not going to say it on here, but JJ knows about it. Somebody took it to a group of people out here in the free world. This guy had a relationship with the DA for years and years, and he runs a program that's supposed to do gang intervention, but it is a farce. But back to where I was saying, the warden, I never forget him. He was a Hispanic warden. And he came in, he called me to the office, and he said, "What are you doing in the meetings? What is the Aaron Brotherhood doing at a Nation of Islam meeting?" Them is totally two options. Y'all in there passing contraband. Now, nobody's going to snitch. Nobody's going to say anything. Neither side said anything. 4 months later, he called me to this office and gave me permission. He said, I like what you're doing. I found out what you was doing. I was resolving issues where they didn't become stabbings. Right. Because instead of everybody falling out and the whole group fall out, even if the person was black and he had run up a debt with a white guy, you got to go in that room, man-to-man, cowboy style, and face that guy. You don't go get your whole set or your whole gang to fall out on the yard and we're going to have a full-scale ride. So he gave me permission because you don't have enough staff always to run. But that's a whole nother subject about whether the shot caller is good. We got off in the weeds there, whether he's doing a positive thing. But that was sometime with a positive because they've said this throughout history. You never have enough guards. And I'm going to go to that woke madness. The woke madness has totally destroyed our whole system on all levels. So since we're talking about incarceration, nobody wants to work. Everybody is timid. It's hard to get a guard. So even when a guard is doing what they're supposed to have been doing, from police all the way to correctional officers, you're not paying them anything. I remember I used to, a Class X write-up, you know what that is? That's the lowest level. That's the highest write-up you can get. I would walk up to a guard and just say, because they don't get paid anything, I'll just walk up to a guard and say, hey, here's $500. Do you want it, or you can write me up for coercing staff? Well, sure, they're going to take it because you can bring in tobacco. So it's easy. You have a paying issue. You have a breakdown in society issue that is phenomenal now. So, Bob, what you're living in is a combination of things. There's not enough guards to work the place.
Right.
There's
is that?
the training is boo boo. Yeah, the training is doo doo. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
But here's the deal, Derwin. When you were in there, we had a lawsuit, battles versus. We're not going to go into the depths of that whole lawsuit, a huge lawsuit.
Correct.
It forced Oklahoma to do better training. It forced Oklahoma to hire more correctional staff, not just guards. It forced Oklahoma to start rehabilitative programs, which they have totally left. We're worse off now. I think that if we brought back that same lawsuit, we would be in worse shape or as equally as bad shape then as we are now. And so those are issues. But one of the bigger issues is we're not trying to prevent 780 was a move to try to prevent people. I don't agree with 780, voted against it. But here's the deal. It was a move to try to keep people from going to the prison to start with. And we failed. And all of those cases were moved back onto the DAs. The DAs have hijacked the community corrections to try to stop people from going. We've got some of these diversionary programs, but again, a lot of those are just people who are making money. It's all about making money. It's not about the results. I've seen there in drug court, when I ran drug court, they'd come and say, you know, the ones who are going to get the money are the ones who have the fewest hot drug tests. Well, guess what they're all going to do? They're all going to start lying on their drug tests. They're all going to not drug test the person they know it's dirty, so they can turn in the lowest numbers so they can get off.
No, they give. I've been working with some of those back in the day. Not here lately. They don't like me so much because I tell the truth. But they give catch outs to people that piss dirty, that flunk drug tests. You know, because I call it to check the box hustle. And I gave it this nickname for this reason, Bob. You put these fancy programs together and you run people through them, and it's a racketeering. Believe me, the Trump administration will be on their doorstep very soon. When you talk about Battles versus Anderson, that's the person who actually mentored me. So I know every inch of that lawsuit and every inch that needs to be applied to the state of Oklahoma, like the back of my hand. I could give a sermon on Battles versus Anderson. Every way they try to dodge it. So what they'll do is called the check the box hustle. So I put this program together, but my numbers, I have to turn in numbers. And my numbers have to be screwed. So when I worked at a place called the Lottie House, the Mental Health Association, I didn't even know it. I was blind. I was this gun ho, we're going to save the world, peer recovery support specialist. I didn't know it was a con game. When I started getting people to turn themselves into TRC, get off drugs, quit drinking, come to this day center, and then I had a connection at the state capitol with Thinkability, and I knew the manager up there, and I was getting them these jobs where they could walk around, clean the bathrooms, buff the floors at the state capitol. I was doing that. Do you know they started finding reasons to nitpick at me? Because if Derwin is getting people off drugs and getting them clean, I'm messing with the hustle because I ain't got these people coming in, sitting around, signing in, because they got to turn in numbers, signing in, eating a donut and drinking coffee, sitting around looking pitiful on drugs, getting a pat on the back. With the wokeness, the poor black man, he was manipulated, he was dogged out by the evil white man system, and this is why he's 40 and 50 years old, smoking crack and alcoholic, sitting up in the Lottie House. It wasn't a victim. It's the same way me and JJ became friends because of the victimhood. So a lot of what we're talking about does cross into a political and a social realm, because just me getting up with all the amount of time I had saying that I did have some type of accountability. I didn't say it was cool for them to wipe me out and dog me out like that, but just saying I had a piece of accountability for 30 seconds. The people's heads, the left heads exploded, and they said, "Take him off of there." Oklahoma's for criminal justice reform. Take that guy off of there, JJ. He's agreeing with the white supremacist JJ Humphrey. And me and JJ been friends ever since that. But JJ kept asking me to talk, so that's why I kept talking.
Here's what's funny, and what Darwin's saying is absolutely true. When I started drug court and I started private probation, we had some of the most successful numbers in the state. We were doing awesome. Guess who comes after me? The mental health comes after me. I was the only unfunded drug court in the state because we weren't doing it the way they wanted. We weren't checking the boxes, what Darwin is saying. We were doing what actually needed to be done. And then guess who comes after me? The DAs come after me because I'm getting too many cases on private probation because we're actually doing something and the judge wants to put them over here. And so DAs come after me because they got this racket going on that, hey, they get $40, even though the appellate court told them what they're doing is illegal. They cannot charge for a fee that they don't provide. They don't provide service. That's called fraud. And they must use the money. And this is the appellate court told them directly. The money must be used for the actual act of supervision. But guess what happened when we passed 780 and we made all these misdemeanors out in the rural communities, and a whole lot still right there in Oklahoma City and Tulsa? Guess who's getting the majority of those cases? The DA is getting all of them. It's massive money when you look across the state. $40 a month per person. Everybody they're getting, no supervision. And again, what do? They just go out and commit new crime. And what do? They just make more money. And again, here's what's even funny. How is that person going to pay that money? Now, if you come into the system and you're stealing, you're dealing, or you're prostituting, that's generally the ways that you're going to make money as a criminal. You're stealing, you're dealing, or you're prostituting. Guess what? If you're going to pay those fees and we're not changing your life and we're not giving you any other direction, guess how you pay? You up your game. You got to steal more, you got to deal more, or you got to prostitute more. That's the way. And that's what the DAs are doing. They're going out, and that's why we're seeing all this crime perpetuate itself, and we're seeing a larger incarceration rate because they're finally hitting the lotto and they're hitting that felony case. And generally those felonies are bigger cases, hitting those 85s or hitting those long sentences. We're seeing younger and younger people coming in with these big, and they're sending those people to these, high max, high mediums, or what, low max, high mediums. And we're seeing these people get raped, get extorted, get strung out. It's the whole system is messed up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I seen that with just a female. Go ahead, Bob.
JJ, something that bothers me is it seems like if you're doing what your voters want you to do, if you get out in the community and get away from that little pile of guys, they want transparency. They want transparency.
General public.
I'm sorry,
but not government. Government don't like transparency.
No, they don't. They don't want it. But then they get you because you're making these guys be transparent. And the thing that really gets me is how in the world can the director go in and talk to the speaker and say, "Hey, I want to work a deal with you that we don't have to answer any of JJ's open record requests." Oh, okay, but but we'll have JJ come over to our office. We'll let him look at anything he wants to look at, as long as he signs the document says that he won't repeat it. You can't take any pictures.
Yeah, it's criminal. That's a criminal.
We'll do that, even though we have a law that says open request. We have the law,
and we'll go after all of them.
He doesn't do it. So
hey,
it's not just him. It's Darwin. They don't seem to really want to correct the things. They want to just muddle the law.
Hey, Bobby, well, I'm going to say this to you in a comical way. but I'm just dead serious. But I'm saying this is what I have learned through lived experience and with gray hair now. Would you actually believe? I know you believe this, but would it be beyond reason to say that the society breakdown, that people are actually arrogant and ignorant all at the same time? And I say this just talking about, say a guy like me would stand up and start talking about Battles versus Anderson. Do you know it, when I say that, then I would say, this guy was my mentor. And then I would say, you see all the lawsuits that I did that actually changed the system? Everybody listening to me that said those three things are arrogant or either ignorant. Now, a person with sense would say, damn, that's a smart dude right there. But your arrogance and your ignorance will not even allow you to do that. So you're dealing with a societal problem that you're actually really, Bobby, dealing with a societal breakdown issue. America was almost lost until November 5th because you had nuts. You actually have people that have mental illness in positions of power all around our country, right? So if we go back to just the system, there, when you say a person don't even know possibly, because I don't know all JJ's business. I just know what I deal with legally, and me just talking to these people periodically. So even if what you're saying, Bobby, do you know the people that are doing that are in positions of power and positions of leadership that don't even know that they have tripped over a serious legal issue? Yeah, their arrogance and their ignorance does not even allow them to perceive it until it really gets in court and you get spanked. So I'll say this and I'll shut up. I've seen this before I got out. Warden after warden would challenge me, right? Until one of the directors showed me in my file called your security file, where it was basically saying, don't mess with this guy. He is a writ writer and he is good at it. If you can work it out with him, please work it out. So even when I run my mouth to some of these diversion programs or some of the stuff I see is criminal, either kill it or steal it, what they do, they think that they're just talking to somebody. They don't hear you when you say Battles versus Anderson. They don't hear it when you say, this dude was good at it. He's really good at filing. He will get us. This dude is not going to scream and holler and talk to you. He's going to file it on you because he has learned how to. So they know not what to do. That's a scripture part of it. Believe me, that they know not what to do.
Derwin, and you're hitting on the very thing that the people not only there at the prison, they don't know. They don't even know they've tripped over it because they have no idea. They don't know. And you go right on up to the governor. I'm sitting in a room full of the criminal justice experts. I'm looking around the room. There might be 3 people in the entire room have a clue. Most of them police officers, they don't understand prison. They don't understand drug court. They don't understand all of these programs. They know police work, but sitting in that room, an overall criminal justice, guess what? There's hardly nobody in the room that even knows what we're talking about, but that's our criminal justice experts. And who are they looking to? They're looking to the guy who's never been in prison, who's never worked as a police officer, who's never worked as a, somewhere in the court system. No, this guy's never done nothing, but he's popular up there and he's the go-to guy to carry the bill. And we got like 5 minutes here to kind of wrap this up. We're going to have you come back on, Darwin. This is a lot bigger subject than we can talk about in an hour because we barely.
I think it's the most important time, most important thing that we've done is talk about this and be open and transparent about it. But Bob, come back next week. Just same thing.
We may do it. We may just bring this one back up. But I'm going to end with this because I'm sitting with 2 guys that I can tell you I've been up there at the Capitol 9 years. These 2 guys are as active as 2 people I know in this subject, criminal justice, all the way around. And I'm going to ask you, in the 9 years that I've been there, I have not seen. So we passed 780. That was a state question. What have you seen our governor, our House, our Senate, what have you seen that they have passed that has been substantial, actually had a positive impact? Have you seen them pass anything that has had a really positive impact and really changed the course of our criminal justice system?
No, because they're surrounded with people who don't really know the system.
Correct.
That's the problem.
And here's what I'm going to tell you. This is what, and we can come back. I would really love to dive in to what's going on with the DAs, because we'll probably have to come back and do that just as a whole segment. And I know Darwin knows a whole bunch on that. Bob, I know you might know. But here's the issue. It's not only do they not know, and are they in a room of people who do not know, but the people they're letting are people who donate big money or their best friends. When they know these programs are failures, they've got to know. I can look at the numbers. You can look at
AJ, Darwin, would you say that Department of Corrections is one of the most difficult jobs there is of all the agencies up there?
Oh yeah, I would say it's one of the
Yeah.
worst.
And you got to know something about it to work it.
Right. It is by far the most difficult job they have up there. I think it's as difficult as the governor. Personal opinion, but that's where we got to get started at.
But here's the deal. They don't, it's not just that they won't listen to us, to the people who know, and it doesn't have to be us. I can go get you a whole bunch of people who can have experiences like us and those kind of things. But the bottom line is they're letting these big donors who may or may not have good intentions, and who all of them don't have good intentions, I can tell you that. But they're being controlled by those, or by their, we tried to get rid of nepotism and favoritism. Hey, they brought it back like nobody's business.
Oh, it's worse. I've never seen anything like it.
Ugly. It's ugly. But here's the bottom line. When somebody stands up and tells the truth, and Darwin, I know that you've experienced this. Bob, I know you've experienced it. In the last 3 years, as we've stood up and tried to call things out, guess what? We've been made public enemies number one. You know,
people, we've been made out to be liars. We're just making it up. We don't know what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So again, that's the issue, is when we stand up and when we call it out, we're not being heard.
It's actually and we all have our day. It's actually criminal, and why I use the word arrogant and in the know, they got something coming. They got something coming from the Trump administration on down, and they're going to be mad at Trump because it's finna get a light shined in Oklahoma. It's a clear example when you say, I told JJ about this a little bit. I don't, like I say, I know this, even this site we own, one of the parties, they monitor that. So, you know, I'll just say that to say that. That's why I learned not to give out all of it, what's going to happen to you. I don't do like my friend Mike does. He get up there and tell them everything, because all they do is go back and do patchwork. But you know, if women at one facility is supposed to be to help women. When our state says you can't give abortions, when I exposed it and got the receipts, I was begged by people that say they are Christian conservatives. No, Derwin, we don't really want to destroy that organization and break it down. And I ain't gonna go any further than that, but it will be addressed.
Well, and the thing about it is, I know the heart of both these guys on there. None of us are wanting to destroy any. What we're looking to make it better, to make it what it really is supposed to be, really help people, really there to stand people up and give them an opportunity. And I know both these guys will hold people responsible. We're not talking about letting everybody out. We don't think everybody needs to be out. What we're talking about is reasonable work to prevent people from going to prison, and work to allow people to get the proper training and be able to get out and not come back. And we believe in holding people accountable, but we've got to go to work on this system, because again, the system is corrupt, and the system has been corrupted by money, by politicians, by our own district attorneys, and nobody wants to call it out. Everybody's scared to call it out. Darwin, I hope you're right. I hope that we see, I'm going to do my part. I know you're doing your part. Bob, I know you're going to do your part. Hey, we're already over time. Darwin, I'm going to talk to you about maybe coming back on next week, and let's pick up the conversation about the DAs, because we barely even got to discuss all that. So we may holler at you, see what your schedule looks like, and come back on next week and finish this up. Hey, we got to jump off here. I want to tell everybody I didn't announce. If you will go to JJ4OK.com, JJ4OK.com. Hey, support us in what we're trying to do and get out here and go after it. Look on that. We've got some cartoons that we're going to be coming out with here pretty quickly on the Capitol. We think it's going to be a fun way to expose some things called Capitol Exposed. We're Elephant in the Room. We do a deal on prisons, OCP Live every week. So jump on that. You can view all that, JJ4OK.com, JJ4OK.com. If you can support us, we'd love that. Y'all have a blessed day.